The main character of this movie is a woman, Malena, who is very beautiful. Malena lived in a small town, and she was the most beautiful woman in that town. Everyone in the town wanted to sleep with him. There lived a boy in this town whose name was Renato. Renato was much younger than Malena. One day, Renato takes the new bicycle and shows it to his friends. Then his friends say that Malena is going to pass from here. That's why they all gather at one place, and when Malena passes by, they start looking at her. When Renato sees her, he keeps looking at her. He cannot take his eyes off her. Then when she passes, he comes to a corner and starts looking at her again. Even Malena reaches inside the city, but Renato still does not stop chasing her. Malena's father was a teacher, and he was deaf, and all these children were his students. Then we are shown that all these people are sitting in a classroom, and they are teasing Malena's father by saying all kinds of dirty things about Malena. Renato goes to Malena's house and starts looking at her through a hole. Malena lies down sadly. Here we learn that Malena's husband had gone with the army during the war and has not returned yet. Then on the other hand, we are shown some of Renato's friends who were making all kinds of nasty things about Malena, and the rest of the people in the town also said that Malena is not a good woman. In this movie, an attempt has been made to show how society often thinks badly about a single woman. Now Renato had started liking Malena very much. Renato had started imagining Malena with himself. He was a teenager, but he wanted to live like adults, and that is why he got his father's pants cut and wore them himself, because he was shy in shorts. Due to this, his father became very angry at him and even beat him several times. But Renato still did not agree, and he started chasing Malena day and night like big boys. He used to look into her house through a hole, and Malena had no idea that someone was keeping an eye on her. But every day, Renato used to imagine himself with Malena. Then suddenly, one day, Malena gets the news that her husband has been killed in the war. Hearing this news, she gets very upset and starts crying. And here we learn that she really loved her husband very much. And now when she came to know that her husband is no more in this world, her wait was over. And she thinks, what will she do in this house now? So she shifts to her father's house. One day, Renato hears from people that Malena is a characterless woman. In such a situation, he thinks that only I know the truth about Malena, so I have to tell everyone that she is not a bad woman. She really loved her husband. Then Renato starts imagining himself with Malena and tells her not to worry. I am with you, just give me a few years so that I can grow up. After this, he goes to the church and says to God that you take care of Malena. In return, I will light a candle here every day. Then one day, Malena's father receives a letter in which it was written that Malena is having an affair with every man in the town. Your daughter is not a good woman. She is characterless. In such a situation, he becomes very angry and refuses to accept Malena as his daughter and asks her to leave from there. Malena is once again left quite alone. When Renato learns that Malena has started living alone again, he starts coming to see her every day again. One night when he goes to Malena's house, he sees that there is a police officer in her house, and it seems as if they are really having an affair. Renato feels very bad seeing this, that I thought she was a good woman. I was going to tell others also that she is a good woman. He couldn't believe his eyes. Then when the police officer comes out of his house, Renato hides in a corner. When the police officer comes out, he finds a doctor. He tells them that Malena is my woman, so what were you doing inside? Both of them fight a lot over this matter, and the police also immediately arrive there. Now after this, the news started spreading in the town that Malena was having an affair with a married man, and for this she could also be jailed. Malena becomes very upset, and then she goes to a lawyer. Malena's lawyer wins the case, and it turns out that the doctor was lying. He had no relation with Malena. After winning the case, the same lawyer tries to force Malena. Malena tries to stop him but is unable to do anything. Renato sees all this happening and gets very upset. We are then shown that Malena's father was away on a trip and their plane crashes. When Malena comes to know about this, she is very sad because now she no longer had anyone who could speak in her favor. The pension that Malena used to get because of her husband had also stopped because it was proved that her husband had now died, and now Malena was running out of money. She thinks a lot but she doesn't understand what to do. But after some time she starts cutting her hair. She says that when the world really calls me a bad woman, then why don't I become a bad woman? When Renato sees all this, he feels very bad and starts getting worried. He had also stopped eating and drinking. Then we see that Malena had become a bad woman. She slept with every man in the town. Because of this, the wives of those men felt very bad, and they were very angry. Then she comes to Malena and beats her badly and throws her out of the town. We are then shown that Malena's husband had returned. In fact, he was not dead. Someone had spread wrong news about him. He goes to his home, but he sees that Malena is nowhere to be found, and there were other people living in his house also. Everyone tells him that your wife has become a bad woman, and she no longer lives here. When he goes to his friends to find out about this, even his friends do not support him. They insult him a lot. Renato feels very bad seeing all this, and he thinks that now the time has come for me to tell everyone what kind of woman Malena is, and why she became a bad woman. In such a situation, Renato writes a letter to her saying that Malena is not a bad woman at all, but she has been made bad. The society people spread very bad news about her, due to which she was very upset. It was the society members who forced her to sleep with unknown men, and then the bad people of this bad town threw him out. Malena's husband gets very angry after reading all this. Then he goes back to get his wife, and then we are shown that he comes back to the same town, walking with his wife. Everyone was still looking at both of them, but there was no longer any taunt or evil in her eyes, because now her husband was with her. Now if he had talked about Malena, Malena's husband would have taught him a lesson. The townspeople started respecting him again. We are then shown Renato meeting Malena for the last time. Some things fall from Malena's hand, and Renato picks them up and gives them to her. He tells Malena that I will pray that your future life will be very good. And after this they go their separate ways. In this movie we are told about the society that if a woman lives alone in some place, then the society thinks all kinds of dirty things about her. Society doesn't think at all about what this will do to the woman's heart. This movie teaches you that do not torture anyone so much that they are forced to become bad.